That's what humans buy into. They buy into story, they buy into meaning, they buy into the why. The next thing, if you can do that, then connect your story on why you're the person doing this, not because there's a market opportunity and you're gonna make money. Manish, how's it going?
Well, I'm doing great.
Amazing. Tell me about your situation. What's going on?
So I run a startup named as Traceable. It's based out of Bangalore. And what we do is that we make an entire supply chain in one toolbox. Let's say tomorrow you go to a premium organic store and buy your dairy, the organic milk. During the point of sale, we give you a QR code where you can scan the QR code and get to know the entire information. Where was the milking done? Which farm was it? Or what are the information which goes in the farm? Whether organic practices was done or not, the fodder was maintained or not, and the supply chain was ethical practice was done, moral practices was maintained, and were the cows feeded healthily, where their health was also considered, and hygiene was maintained or not. All these minute decisions to the consumer to take data-driven decision whether to buy the product or not. So this is something which you're doing. Having said that, currently I'm doing in textile industry. As we speak, there are like 5+ consumers using our product in textile industry in Nordic regions. And I'm using blockchain for this to make this happen. And yeah, that's about me. And having said that, it's being in an early stage startup, and I'm also, this is my first startup as well. Being 24, I mean, there's lots of things which I'm learning with time. However, I feel there are certain things I can accelerate with the proper knowledge and mentoring. So this is where I am at the moment.
Got it. So you have a supply chain tech startup. It's called Traceable.
Yes.
Okay. In Bangladesh, India.
No. Bangalore. Yeah.
Cool. And this is your first startup. What questions comes to mind that I might be able to help with?
So my first question would be that, how do you have a motivated team all around? I mean, who looks up to it and building a strong team system. However, in a startup, the first 10 employees are the main crucial ones. And how, as a CEO, I can make sure the team is in the high spirits and ensure that I can have them for a longer time as possible. Being a startup, I have restrictions. I can't, however, have them with, I have limited bandwidth in terms of cash, which I can be giving them. But there's anyways where members can be motivated and making sure they're there for the longer time. So it was not like a problem, but wanted to learn this.
Yeah. Here's the way I think about building a team is what I've discovered, and I've read a ton of books on what motivates people. And there's a great book called Who by Jeffrey Smart. Compensation or fortune, right? He's got, I think it's called 5 F's. There's future and fit and family and fortune. And then there's a 5th one, I can't remember, but capital, getting paid, what you get paid is not number one, right? When people join a startup, an early stage company, the type of person that would want to do that is completely different than somebody that went to university and wants to work at a Fortune 500 company. Okay. So if you even find somebody that they know applying to that role, that it's like a beginning company, then they've kind of self-selected as kind of more of a risk taker, more about kind of being exposed to different ideas, be willing to develop into the role, etc. So the question is then, how do you keep them engaged, right? Especially when you can't pay them what the market would pay them, right? How do you get them to show up? Especially in early days of companies that you're getting your butt kicked, right? That, there's good news and bad news and this is awesome, this is bad. And it just, dude, building a company is like riding a tidal wave, like being in a wave pool where you're just getting beat and you're trying to make progress and you're swimming and then the next wave crashes on you and then you get up and you keep swimming. And the only way to do that is to be able to tell a story that's compelling enough. And if I think about it, is the story has to be more compelling than the friction. Okay. So the future place that you're trying to create, every company exists to solve a problem. Does that make sense? Doesn't matter if you're Elon Musk and you're going to Mars, creating a multiplanetary species, which is the problem he's trying to solve, or you're Jeff Bezos and you're trying to, give people more options and not, make people feel like they're restricted in regards to the decisions and products they buy based on where they're geographically located. Every business that's successful only exists because it solves a problem. So the job of a founder is to be able to tell that compelling story to attract people that is compelling enough that when there's friction and they hit that friction, they're willing to ride through it with you. So what you described for Traceable is very tactically, left brain specific, what it does and how it works, right? But, if I was talking to a potential team member, I wouldn't even start with that, right? And I know you're like trying to give me context to give you advice, but I would start with, here's the problem I see in the world, right? So if I ask you this question, we'll do this in real time. What problem are you trying to solve in the world?
The products which you're using are not ethically based or standard. Consumer wants to know where the product came from.
Okay. So again, that is a very like specific left brain, like here's the reason why it's going to exist. But what problem, if you don't solve that, like why does the consumer want to know that?
They want to know the product which they're buying is healthy or not.
Okay. So what problem is that solving for them?
Trust.
Okay. Again, they're trying to solve the problem for something bigger. So like, why do they care? Why is that important to know?
To make a sustainable practice.
Perfect. So they want to create a sustainable future because they believe there's a lot of waste. So do you see how I went from tactically what you do, specifically what the customer is making a decision around, kind of like the simple stuff, to the bigger meaning behind all of this?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the way you would say that is to say, we see a problem in the world where there's a lot of a waste and a lot of products being consumed from folks that are making them unhealthy, creating a ton of products, whatever the problems are, okay? We think a lot of people are making purchasing decisions that's causing a negative future impact, and we want to solve that problem, okay? And it's this big of a problem. It's like a 83 billion a year plastic creation, whatever. And I'm involved in a company called Pila that makes recyclable polymers, right? They make a biopolymer, build a bunch of products. This phone case is a Pila case. My sunglasses are Pila case. They don't talk about sunglasses. They talk about waste. If you go on pilavision.com and you read their website, that's the first thing they talk about. That's what humans buy into. They buy into story. They buy into meaning. They buy into the why. Okay. So start with your why, as Simon Sinek says, and wrote a whole book on this. And then the next thing, if you can do that, then connect your story on why you're the person doing this, not because there's a market opportunity and you're going to make money, right? That's not going to get me to want to help you. It's kind of like, my house manager, Betty, I was training for a full Ironman. Okay. This past summer, 2 months ago, I completed it. But prior to that, I had a couple half Ironmans and I was just doing a lot of racing, and she was supporting me. She was showing up, waking up at 5 a.m, 4:30 a.m. to set up the race, to man the aid station, to get my bike ready, she was helping me. And I remember one day she was just like really excited about this thing I was doing. And I just asked her, I was like, why are you so like eager to want to help me? I know I'm paying you, but there's a difference between people that show up to do the work versus like you're really thinking through things and being very proactive. And I really appreciate it, but I'm just curious why. And she goes, I'm just inspired by how crazy of an idea it is that you think that you're just going to run a full Ironman. Like, and for her, she was just inspired by the fact that she can't even fathom, just for context, a 4-kilometer swim. And I just learned to swim 2 years prior, 180-kilometer bike ride and a 42-kilometer run in right after each other. Right. And that's what people want. They want to be inspired. Manish, the people that are going to work with you want to be inspired by you. How you get there is the kind of mundane tasks that have to be done. But what gets them jumping out of bed and wanting to jump on their laptop and respond to Slack messages and go do cold calls and get customers and help you out is that. And if you get really good, that's a skill, that's a muscle. If you get really good at that, then you'll be able to attract great people that you could never afford, that will stick around with you for years to help you make that dream come true. And my rule is if you get that support, you have to make it right financially in the future, right? Which is how we do it typically with stock options or whatever. But if those people show up and they support you along that journey, just promise me you'll make it worth it for them. Cool?
Definitely. I mean, like this paradigm shift, I'm definitely carrying it.
But that's how you do it. You literally start with why, you start with meaning, you talk about the problem, you talk about why it's important to you, what's your personal story and association to it, and talk about the customers you're serving and why you think it's important to help them out and why they're great people and help the customers make better decisions. And overall, that's going to lead to a better future. I mean, in our DNA as humans, we have this need to want to make the future better. Why we have kids, right? It's why we want the faster iPhone. It's part of our DNA. It's in our biological programming to want to create a better future. If we didn't have that, we just wouldn't start companies. We wouldn't try to be better humans. We wouldn't read books, right? Like we wouldn't do this stuff.
True that.
So give them a reason to latch onto you for that. But interns are great. When you're starting off, you got no money. Interns, people that are retired, like literally people are retired, they love working with young, eager, motivated entrepreneurs. And they're just sitting around doing not a whole lot. So for you to get an hour of their time once a week or have them help out part-time, crazy valuable. Yeah, interns, recent grads, right? A lot of them are willing to forego the big paydays today because they want rather the experience that you might be able to provide them. So sell against that. Make sure you mention those things to those people, and it's going to get them attracted to working with you.
Definitely. I mean, this is what I needed. I'm happy I got this answer. I'm going to start implementing this with my work. And moreover, I go down back to the drawing room and come back with these plans, the narration which I need to say to the team. Thank you so much. So
cool. Anything else I can help with?
Yeah, I had a second question was right now, how can we handle the stakeholders? I mean, right now I have other directors who are helping me do the sales in Nordic regions and getting me the understanding of textile industry, which I'm currently working with. However, later I'm going into the other industry as well. But how is it that can you, keep all the stakeholders happy? Because everyone has a different vision, different aligned actions which they want to take. How is it that you can handle that? And follow-up question to that is that of late, I'm seeing many tractions, many potential investors who are reaching out to me and speaking to me. How do I select the right directors as well? So,
yeah, I mean, so is the question how to manage the directors, or is it how to choose the right ones in the future?
I'm failing at both of this. I'm figuring out how to do both of this. So
let me start with choosing, right? So I have this concept that what we want to do is find people that have the experience in things that we lack, okay? And if we want to keep it simple, we call these experience buckets, right? So there might be an experience bucket around technology, one around people, one around legal, one around finance. You know, these are typically things that most first-time entrepreneurs don't have. Marketing, sales is, if I know what I'm good at and I know what my gaps are, these missing experience buckets, then I can go out to the market and use that as a filter to choose which one of those people I decide to bring into my team. If I have 3 options, this one is the best option because they also have this background that I don't have, and it's part of my list of people to be around. So that's how I choose. I also, again, when you're starting off, you don't have money. You know, sometimes directors want to get compensated. I've literally seen people, if they want to sit on boards or get compensated, they want to get paid. To me, those people are quick filters out, because the type of people I want around me are willing to get paid in recognition, honestly, just being associated and praised publicly. But if they did want to get financially compensated, then stock options, right? And they'll win as we win, and investing, because a lot of times directors, or what a lot of people call advisors, they add a lot of value for a month and then they go silent. So I would never want to just give somebody equity in my business and not have them participate over a long period of time. Usually for advisors, 2 years. You could even go 4 years, but the norm is about 2 years. So meaning that if you give them 1% equity in your business, typically it's 1 year cliff and then monthly vest. Or you could do monthly vest, and like if they are really helpful for the first 3 months and then they're not, you might have a conversation with them and say, hey, you mentioned you make all these introductions, or you mentioned that you would lead this meeting every week with my team, and that's not happening. I understand life gets busy, but maybe you're not available anymore, and that's fine. I just want to make sure we can reallocate that equity to somebody that can help us get those outcomes. And that's the way I have that conversation with somebody. In regards to managing them, especially if you have like a board or whatever, I just believe that your job isn't to report to the board, or the board isn't there to report to you per se, or the board is there to do work. So even if I have investors, I put my investors to work. If I have advisors, I put my advisors to work. And the trick I do, which everybody messes up, I don't send one email to everybody. I send one email to an individual. So if you were on my board, Manish, I'd be like, hey, Manish, just wanted to give you a quick update on the business. Here's the high level. Boom, boom, boom. Last time we talked, you mentioned X. Would you be able to do A, B, and C? Let me know. Attached is the update board deck for context. That way, I've asked you something specifically, right? Just like literally right now, a company I'm involved in, the founder just asked me to make an introduction for him. He's putting me to work, as he should. I teach this. It's online on my YouTube channel. So he's doing exactly what I teach, which is I'm not here to hold him accountable or to police him. I'm here to create value for them, but they need to do the work to ask me specifically for something they know I know how to do that that's going to create value for the business. They're not going to take advantage. They're not going to put me to work full time. I'm not here to be an employee. But for a lot of parts, it's knowledge or connections. Those are like the two big areas. Things that I do for my director, sometimes I'll ask them to interview a key team member I'm thinking of hiring, CTO, CMO, director, like somebody I've never hired before, and I just need somebody kind of have a second opinion. I'll just ask them, like, could you get on? I did this with Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban was an investor in one of my companies, and I was just like, hey, I'm trying to hire this VP of sales. He's really excited. He was fascinated to find out that you're involved in the business. Would you mind giving him a call? No problem. Hey, it's Mark Cuban. Take the job. Like, that's all I needed him to do, right? But you need to ask for those things. So that's how I think of like who to pick, how to compensate, and how to put him to work so you get the most value from the director.
Then I got the takeaway. And
does that help? What did you like best about that? What resonated the most for you?
I mean, the fact that sending the mail, making it more customized to individual, and hearing it out from them. I mean, usually when I send a generic mail, putting 4
nobody
members,
replies.
Nobody, not even one I get. But here they're compelled to give me a reply, and easier to get an action. And even having it one-on-one has far more advantages than doing that. And there is some practice which I only don't do, which I'm seeing many of the other startups as well, which they do that. And having that kind of association, and expecting our directors also to join the force. I mean, that while they're doing it, I would like to make sure that plan is on as well. So this is something which I got familiarized and connected instantly when you mentioned that. And that's something which I was not going in the right way. So I'll correct that as well. And
awesome.
I had a last question. Being an early stage startup, everyone says that you should take 1 day at a time, 1 day at a time. But having said that, how is it that I can envision myself like 5 years down the line? What should be the company like? I mean, like I have watched the North Star metric of your own video, which made me into like, it put me in more thoughts that I'm not in the right mindset. I should be thinking more. So when how can I define myself as a 5-year, 10-year kind of a goal, to look at myself as a long-term picture in that case scenario?
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a great question. When I started off, I think I was like, I had a few failed companies. And then when I was 24, I started to read books and get mentors. And that's where I started to find my stride in business. But I think for me, the first moment that I can remember when I started to understand the value of having a clear vision for myself was when I read the book, Good to Great by Jim Collins, right? And in that book, he argues this concept called the BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, which is kind of like this. It's almost like setting a goal that you know you could never achieve, but the pursuit of it is one of the big reasons of its value. Again, I point back to Elon because it's the one most people know about, but like getting to Mars, like, sure, he'd like to be there in his lifetime, but there's a good chance that he won't even ever have experienced what he creates. So imagine creating an outcome in a business to achieve something that you, the CEO, will never be able to experience, which is pretty cool. But that to me is like the idea of a BHAG. So once you have a BHAG, then you can work backwards and say, okay, where do I want to be in a year? Where do I want to be in 3 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years? And that to me is typically the timeline that I like. And the key though is to ask the question in a way that removes all the roadblocks. Most founders are going to choose outcomes based on their previous history. Okay, so they set goals based on their previous history. They don't understand that every year you get better. So most people underestimate or overestimate what they can get done in a year, in 12 months, but they underestimate what they can get done in 10 years. Okay, so in 12 months, they think I'm going to raise a round of funding, I'm going to build a team, I'm going to have customers and revenue at whatever size. And then they don't hit that. But then when you ask them where they wanted to be at this time, like at 24, where did I think I'd be in 10 years at 34? I underestimated because I couldn't understand the idea of compounding knowledge, compounding growth, momentum, right? So the key is, wave a magic wand, no limits, no constraints. What do you want to create in 3 years, 10 years, and what's your BHAG? And know that you're not supposed to know how to accomplish that. Most people make the mistake that if I don't have a sense of how I'm going to do that, then I don't think it's right for me to choose something that's crazy. But my whole philosophy is my job is to figure out the where and the destination and let the how reveal itself as I go through the journey, as I go through the experiences to learn and all I need to do is figure out how do I get to the next quarter, the next quarter, the next quarter. So I pretty much live my life in these 90 days, but I plan with a 25-year BHAG and I plan with a 10-year and a 3-year, but I reset every year, but I'm only executing in 90-day increments. Does that make sense? So again, my job is to figure out where I'm going, but not worry about the how. The bigger the why, the easier the how. But in a 90-day window, I do need to execute and create that momentum. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely does.
Awesome. So Manish, as we wrap up, I'm just curious, based on the whole conversation we had, what's the number one thing that resonated the most for you out of everything we talked about? What did you feel like you needed to hear the most today?
The first point, connecting with the team members and making sure they connect with me and they go on with the company with irrespective of how much ever the pay is or being with it. Because sometimes when I felt after you mentioned that some of the people are staying in the team for that reason, and I had quite judged myself. So through your words, I got to know that. And second thing is that what I thought, second point which you gave, I thought having communications with directors, it's like a rocket science or anything as such. But these are simple hacks which you mentioned, and this is not. So that is one thing which I wanted. I kind of got very closely attached to, and which I kind of missed so many days. And so these two are my main takeaways. And the final thing which I've got, I guess that was a truth bomb. And I just feel I got a great takeaway from this session. This need to implement this and make sure this knowledge session which I've got should yield better results from now here on. That's what's running in my mind at the moment.
Awesome. Those are great takeaways. Honestly, it's just one step, day over day, one foot in front of the other, and just don't lose momentum. It's the most powerful force in the entrepreneurial journey. Just keep that momentum. Don't let the setbacks hold you back. Just keep moving it forward, and I guarantee in a decade your life will look completely different.
Definitely. All set to that. And thank you so much. It's a great opportunity for me to be like having a one-on-one conversation with you, because I not only me, I make my entire team watch your videos to get connected, to understand, and the thinking has improved. I mean, like most of the ways our thinking strategy, or how we send a deck, how we give a demo to the people, how we do the sales part. I mean, we look a lot more than what RH members looks like, and it's because of your support. And someone whom I look up to, someone whom I'm learning from. Last 4 months, I've been following your YouTube channel and LinkedIn post, and now to be here one-on-one, I mean, it's a great takeaway, and I'm very confident from tomorrow onwards it would be a different day for me with this video introduction.
My rule, Manish, just so everybody watching understands this, is that if you make it to the top, it's your responsibility to send the elevator down to the first floor, right? Like if you have any success, it's your responsibility to help other people. And that's why I try to make my time available for folks following along and that I might be able to support. So I just want to thank you for being open and willing to do this. And I hope to hear updates and watch along your journey.
Definitely. We'd love to.
Awesome. All right, Manish, have a great day. Talk soon. Peace.